In the silent heart of the galactic core where stars blinked like forgotten promises, a ceremony unfolded that no one truly wanted to attend. The grand amphitheater of Zitherus floated above a dying nebula, its silver spires curling like frozen smoke against the void. Inside, thousands of alien nobles sat draped in bioluminescent silks, their many eyes fixed not on the stage, but on their own reflections in polished obsidian floors. They had come not out of loyalty but obligation. Today was the day the last heir of the Silthari dynasty would be presented for bonding. Her name was Elira. She stood alone on the raised dais, no taller than a human child. Her frame slight, beneath robes woven from moonmoth silk. Her skin shimmered faintly like polished pearl, and her ears tapered into delicate points that trembled with every breath. Silver hair fell past her waist, catching the cold light in strands that seemed spun from starlight itself. Around her neck hung a single crystal pendant pulsing with a soft violet glow, the last relic of her fallen house. The Silthari were once revered, masters of resonance magic. They could shape reality with harmonic frequencies, bending time and matter through song. But war had come. A silent plague of entropy unleashed by the Krothar hive mind had unraveled their cities, their libraries, their very memories. Now only Elira remained, the last princess. The last voice tradition demanded that a noble from another species step forward to claim her as ward or consort or weapon, to bind her fate to theirs and carry the Silthari legacy into the future. But no one moved. The Vryn lords shifted in their thrones, their chitinous limbs clicking in disinterest. The Gelthari matriarchs hummed low tones of dismissal. Even the usually opportunistic Dravik envoys stared at the floor. Elira was too small, too fragile, too broken. Her magic had not awakened since the fall, and worse, she carried the mark of silence, a curse whispered to drain the vitality of those near her. She did not cry. She had not cried since the night her mother's song turned to static. Instead, she kept her eyes forward. Her hands folded, her breath steady. If no one chose her, she would be sent to the archive vaults, a living relic entombed in glass and data crystals, a ghost before death. Then the doors hissed open. A figure walked in alone, not in ceremonial armor, not in noble finery, but in a worn gray uniform patched at the elbows and frayed at the cuffs. His boots clanked against the metal floor, echoing in the vast silence. He was human, lean with sunburned skin and short brown hair that refused to stay flat. His eyes were calm, not curious, not pitying, just present. He carried no weapon, no banner, no entourage, just a small travel satchel slung over one shoulder. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Humans were new to the Galactic Council, barely a century into interstellar travel. They were seen as loud, impulsive, and dangerously emotional. None had ever attended a Silthari bonding rite. Certainly none had ever stepped onto the dais. But he did. He walked straight to Elira, stopped 3 paces away, and knelt, not in submission but in respect. Then he spoke in halting Silthari, his accent rough but clear. "I accept her." The chamber erupted. Protests buzzed in a dozen languages. The High Arbitrator, a towering being of crystalline flesh, raised a hand for silence. "This is unprecedented," the Arbitrator intoned. "You are not of noble blood, human. You hold no house, no fleet, no resonance lineage. By what right do you claim the last Silthari heir?" The human looked up. His name was Daniel Reed, but he did not say it. Instead, he said simply, "Because no one else would." Elira stared at him. Her heart, which had been still for so long, gave a single hard thump. She saw no greed in his eyes, no ambition, just quiet resolve, and something else. Loneliness that mirrored her own. The Arbitrator consulted the ancient protocols. The law did not forbid it. It only required a willing guardian, and Elira had not refused. So it was done. As the nobles filed out in stunned silence, Daniel stood and offered his hand. Elira hesitated, then placed her small fingers in his. His skin was warm, real. Not like the cool perfection of her own kind. They left the amphitheater together, stepping onto a shuttle that bore no insignia. As the stars blurred past the viewport, Elira finally spoke, her voice barely a whisper. "Why did you choose me, Daniel?" Looked out at the endless dark. "Because someone had to." Back on the human colony world of Marlow, the days passed slowly. Daniel lived in a modest home on the edge of the Whispering Pines, a forest where the trees hummed in the wind. He was a xenolinguist by trade, though most called him a recluse. He had lost his family years ago in a transport accident and since then had kept to himself studying alien languages no one else bothered with. Elira adjusted slowly. She slept in a room filled with soft light and woven blankets. She ate simple meals of root vegetables and grain bread. She watched the rain fall and the birds fly and the way Daniel's hands moved when he repaired old tech. She said little, but her eyes took everything in. One evening, as dusk painted the sky in amber and violet, she followed him to the old barn behind the house. Inside, coiled in a nest of thermal blankets and scrap metal, was a creature that made her breath catch. It was small for a dragon, no bigger than a large dog, its scales the color of rust and storm clouds. One wing was slightly crooked from an old injury, and its eyes glowed a soft amber. It lifted its head and let out a low, rumbling purr when it saw Daniel. "This is Ember," Daniel said softly. "He found me after the crash. Been with me ever since." Illyra approached slowly. Dragons were myth among her people, beings of pure resonance said to be born from the first songs of creation. She reached out and Ember sniffed her hand, then nuzzled her palm. A warmth spread through her chest, something she had not felt in years. That night she dreamed of singing. But peace never lasted long. 3 weeks later, the sky split open. Crothor Dreadnought descended over Marlow, its obsidian hull blotting out the sun. The hive mind had tracked Illyra. They feared her potential. If her song ever returned, it could unravel their entropy fields, their entire existence built on decay and silence. Alarms blared across the colony. People ran. Ships scrambled. But the Crothor did not attack the city. They sent a single drop pod aimed directly at Daniel's home. Illyra stood in the yard, her silver hair whipping in the wind. Ember growled beside her, wings flared. Daniel grabbed his old pulse rifle, his jaw set. "They're here for you," he said. "I know," she replied. Then we faced them together. The pod crashed 100 meters away. From the smoke emerged 3 Crothor Reapers, biomechanical horrors with limbs like scythes and faces that were nothing but hollow voids. They moved without sound, without breath. They carried entropy blades that unraveled matter on contact. Daniel fired. The pulses struck, but the Reapers absorbed the energy, their forms flickering, then reforming. Ember lunged, breathing a stream of blue fire that made the air crackle. One Reaper staggered but did not fall. Illyra closed her eyes. She remembered her mother's lullaby, the one sung under twin moons. She remembered the feel of resonance in her bones. She was afraid, but she was not alone. And then she sang. It was not loud, not grand, just a single pure note that hung in the air like a thread of light. But the effect was immediate. The Reapers froze. Their forms began to destabilize. Cracks spread across their carapaces. The entropy blades dimmed. Ember roared and charged, tearing through the weakened creatures with claws and flame. Daniel stood stunned, watching as the note expanded into a melody, soft but unbreakable. Vines from the forest rose and wrapped around the remaining Reaper. The very air vibrated with protective harmony. When it was over, silence returned. The Reapers were gone, reduced to ash and static. Illyra collapsed. Daniel caught her before she hit the ground. Her skin was pale, her breath shallow. "You did it," he whispered. She looked up at him, her violet eyes glowing faintly. "No," she said. "We did it." In the days that followed, the colony buzzed with rumors. The human and the elf girl and the dragon who fought the void. But Daniel kept them hidden. He knew the galaxy would come for her again. Nobles would want to use her. Empires would seek to control her. But she was not a weapon. She was a person, and she had chosen him as much as he had chosen her. One night, as they sat by the fire, Ember curled at their feet, Illyra asked a question. "What will we do now?" Daniel poked the flames. "Whatever comes next." Together she smiled. For the first time in years, it reached her eyes. Far above, in the silent dark, new stars were being born. And somewhere in the ruins of Zitherus, a forgotten song began to echo again, not of loss, but of hope, and it was just the beginning. Weeks passed on Marlow, and the quiet life began to feel like a dream. Illyra spent her mornings walking the whispering pines with Ember trailing behind her, like a shadow made of scales and smoke. Daniel worked in his study, translating old alien texts or repairing broken comms units, salvaged from crashed freighters. The colony left them alone, some out of fear, others out of respect. But peace was never meant to last. One evening, as the twin moons rose low over the hills, a signal pulsed through the local network. It was faint, scrambled, but unmistakable. A distress call. Not from a ship or a station, but from a deep-range beacon buried in the outer asteroid belt. The code matched Silthari encryption. Old. Desperate. Illyra stood in the doorway of Daniel's study. Her fingers curled around the frame. She had heard it too. Not with her ears, but with something deeper. A resonance in her bones. A voice calling through time. "Someone is alive," she said. Daniel looked up from his console. "Are you sure?" She nodded. It is faint, like a memory. But it is there. They both knew what it meant. If another Syltheri survived the fall, it changed everything. Elira would not be the last. The legacy would not rest on her alone. But it also meant danger. The Crother would be hunting that signal too. We have to go, Daniel said. Ember let out a low rumble from the corner, his amber eyes gleaming. He understood. They all did. Preparations were swift. Daniel loaded their shuttle the skyward with rations, medical kits, and a portable resonance dampener he had built from salvaged parts. Elira packed only her pendant and a small satchel of dried herbs. Ember curled into the cargo hold, his wings tucked tight against his body. The journey took 3 days. The asteroid belt, known as the Shatter Veil, was a graveyard of ancient battles. Derelict warships floated like skeletons, half buried in rock and ice. The beacon's signal led them to a massive fragment, once part of a Syltheri moon fortress, now cracked open like a broken egg. They landed in a narrow canyon of black stone. The air was thin and cold. Ember stayed close to Elira, his warmth a steady comfort. Daniel carried a handheld scanner, its screen flickering with interference. The signal is coming from below, he said. They found a hatch hidden beneath layers of frost. It opened with a hiss, revealing a dark shaft that spiraled downward. The walls were lined with faded murals of Syltheri singing stars into being. Elira ran her fingers over the images, her breath catching. At the bottom, they entered a chamber lit by soft blue crystals embedded in the ceiling. In the center, on a stone dais, lay a figure wrapped in silver cloth. Her hair was white as snow, her skin pale as marble. But her chest rose and fell. Slowly, steadily. Elira approached, trembling. The woman opened her eyes. They were the same violet as Elira's, but clouded with age and pain. "You came?" she whispered. "Who are you?" Elira asked. "I am Lyra, the last song weaver. I hid here when the entropy wave hit. I tried to shield the others, but I was too weak. I have been waiting for you, child." Elira knelt beside her. Tears welled but did not fall. Lyra reached up and touched her cheek. "Your song has awakened. I felt it across the void." Daniel stood back, giving them space, but his eyes scanned the chamber. Something felt wrong. The air was too still. The silence too deep. Lyra turned to him. "You are the human who claimed her." "I did not claim her," Daniel said. "I stood with her." Lyra smiled faintly. "That is rarer than claiming." Then she coughed a dry, rattling sound. "I do not have much time. The entropy curse lingers in my blood. But before I go, I must give you something." She lifted a hand, and the crystals in the ceiling flared brighter. From the wall, a hidden panel slid open, revealing a small orb made of swirling light. It hovered toward Elira and settled in her palms. It was warm, alive. "This is the heart seed," she said. "The core of our first resonance. It holds the original song, the one that shaped galaxies. The Crothar fear it more than anything. They will stop at nothing to destroy it." Elira clutched it close. "What do I do with it? Learn it. Become it. And when the time comes, sing it not to destroy but to heal." Lyra's breath grew shallow. Her eyes fluttered. Elira held her hand until the last light faded from them. Then she closed the old woman's eyes and bowed her head. They buried Lyra in the chamber, sealing it with a song Elira wove from memory and grief. As they climbed back to the surface, the sky darkened. Crothar ships. 3 of them descended like black knives slicing through the stars. Their hulls pulsed with anti-resonance fields designed to mute Syltheri magic. Daniel cursed under his breath. They tracked the signal, or the heart seed. Ember growled, his scales bristling. Elira looked at the orb in her hands. It glowed brighter, as if responding to the threat. "We cannot fight them here," Daniel said. "Not with their dampeners." "Then we run," Elira said, "but not blindly." She turned to the largest asteroid nearby, its surface pitted with ancient tunnels. "The Syltheri used to store resonance crystals there. If we can reach the core, we can amplify the heartseed, even briefly." Daniel nodded. It was a risk, but it was their only chance. They raced across the surface, Ember leaping ahead, clearing debris with bursts of flame. The Crothar sent drones, small skittering machines that emitted silence fields. Wherever they passed, sound died. Plants withered. Even light seemed to dim. Elira sang as they ran, a short, sharp note that shattered the nearest drone into dust. But each note cost her. Her nose bled. Her hands shook. Daniel fired his rifle, taking out 2 more drones. Ember crushed a third under his claws. They reached the tunnel entrance just as a Crothar drop pod slammed into the ground behind them. Inside the tunnel was narrow and winding. The walls hummed faintly with residual energy. Elira pressed her palm to the stone and felt the old song beneath. It was weak but present. "This way," she said. They ran deeper into the asteroid. The Crothar followed. Their footsteps made no sound, but their presence choked the air. Daniel set charges along the tunnel as they went, small-timed explosives meant to slow pursuit. At the heart of the asteroid, they found a spherical chamber lined with massive resonance crystals. They glowed faintly like dying stars. In the center was a pedestal carved with Silthari runes. Elira placed the heart seed on it. Light erupted. The entire chamber filled with golden radiance. The crystals flared to life. The song returned not as a memory but as a living force. Elira stepped forward, her silver hair lifting as if caught in an invisible wind. Daniel shielded his eyes. Ember crouched low, his wings spread protectively. Outside, the Crothar forces paused. Their machines stuttered. Their forms flickered. The song was unraveling their entropy fields. Elira raised her arms and sang, not a battle cry, not a weapon, but a lullaby, the same one Lyra had sung to her ancestors. The notes wove through the asteroid, through the void, through the very fabric of space. The Crothar ships began to crack. Their hulls groaned, their cores destabilized. One by one, they exploded in silent bursts of dark fire. When it was over, the chamber dimmed. The heart seed floated back into Elira's hands, its light softer now. She swayed on her feet, and Daniel caught her before she fell. "You did it again," he said. She shook her head. "Not me. The song. And those who came before." They returned to the shuttle, weary but alive. As they lifted off, the asteroid crumbled behind them, consumed by the energy they had unleashed. Ember curled around Elira in the cockpit, his warmth steady. Back on Marlow, they expected rest. But the galaxy had other plans. A message waited for them, not from the Crothar, not from the Council, but from a human woman named Claire Voss. She was a scout captain with the Frontier Alliance, and she had something they needed to see. Daniel played the message on his console. Claire appeared on screen, her face sharp with intelligence, her dark hair tied back in a simple knot. She spoke quickly. "I found a Silthari archive, hidden in the ruins of Oris 9. It was shielded by a resonance lock keyed to your bloodline, Elira. I cannot open it, but I think it holds more than records. I think it holds a weapon, or a key. Meet me at the drift station near Helios Rim. Come alone. Trust no one." Elira stared at the screen. Oris 9 was the site of the final Silthari stand. If anything survived, it would be there. "We have to go," Daniel said. But this time they would not go unprepared. Daniel contacted an old friend, a human engineer named May Tuller, who lived on the edge of neutral space. May had built ships that could slip past Crothar sensors and outrun Council patrols. If anyone could upgrade the Skyward, it was her. They arrived at May's outpost 3 days later. It was a cluttered station built inside a hollowed comet. May greeted them with grease on her hands and a smile that never quite reached her eyes. She took one look at Ember and tossed him a chunk of synth meat. "Heard you caused a stir in the Shatter Vale," she said. "News travels fast," Daniel replied. May nodded. "And trouble travels faster." She agreed to help. For a price. Not credits. Information. She wanted to know what the Heartseed truly was. Elira hesitated, but Daniel nodded. They needed her. Elira explained as best she could. May listened without interrupting. When she was done, May whistled low. "So you are carrying the original code of creation. No wonder the Crothar want you dead." She worked through the night reinforcing the Skyward's hull, installing a phase cloak and upgrading the comms to quantum-encrypted channels. She also gave Daniel a small device. "It is a resonance anchor," she said. "If her song gets too strong, it will ground her. Keep her from burning out." Daniel tucked it into his pocket. "Thank you, May." The drift station shuddered as Crothar interceptors closed in. Their ships moved like shadows across the nebula, swallowing light as they came. Claire cursed and slammed her fist on the console. "They are faster than last time." Daniel pulled up the Skyward systems. "We have the phase cloak. We can slip out." "Not with their new dampeners," Claire shot back. "They can track resonance echoes now. If she sings even once, they will lock on." Elira stood near the viewport, her fingers curled around the heartseed. It pulsed softly as if sensing her fear. Ember pressed against her leg, his amber eyes fixed on the approaching fleet. "Then we do not sing," she said. "We hide," Claire raised an eyebrow. "How there is a place on the map. A resonance fold near the Veil of Lorne. It bends space with harmonic distortion. If we reach it before they do, we can vanish." Daniel studied the coordinates. It was a gamble. The fold was unstable. One wrong note and they would be torn apart. But it was their only chance. They moved fast. Claire triggered the station's self-destruct sequence to buy time. Daniel and Elira boarded the Skyward with Ember leaping in behind them. The Iron Sparrow followed close as they launched into the swirling colors of the Helios Rim Nebula. Crother fire streaked past, silent beams of entropy that turned gas clouds to dust. Claire weaved through the chaos, her ship nimble and sharp. Daniel activated the phase cloak and the Skyward shimmered, then faded from view. For a moment it worked. Then a Crother hunter drone latched onto their hull. Its silence field spread like frost across the metal. The cloak flickered. Alarms blared. Elira stepped into the cargo hold. She placed the heart seat on the floor and knelt. Ember curled around her, his warmth a shield against the cold. She did not sing a full song, just a single hum, low and steady. The drone cracked, then shattered into black ash. But the damage was done. Their position was exposed. Daniel pushed the engines to full. Claire signaled ahead, "Hold on. The fold is close." They broke through the nebula's edge into a region of space where stars bent like reeds in wind. The Vale of Lorn, ancient Silthari ruins floated here, half melted by time and resonance. The fold itself was a ring of shimmering energy pulsing with golden light. Entering it felt like stepping into a dream. Gravity twisted. Sound stretched. Colors bled into sound. Elira closed her eyes and let the heartseed guide her. She whispered a lullaby her mother once sang, and the fold opened wider. The Crother ships followed, but as they crossed the threshold, their forms unraveled. Entropy could not survive pure creation. They dissolved into static and silence. When the Skyward emerged on the other side, the stars were different. Older. Quieter. They had jumped 3 sectors in an instant. Claire's voice crackled over comms. "You okay, Daniel? Check the sensors. We are clear." For now, Elira stood slowly. Ember nudged her hand. She looked at the map again. The first choir was closer now. Only 2 more resonance nodes to activate. But they needed rest. And supplies. Claire suggested a neutral port called Haven's Rest, a floating city built inside a hollowed comet. It was lawless but safe for those who paid in silence or service. Humans ran it, mostly exiles and scouts like Claire. They docked under false names. Daniel wore a hooded coat. Elira kept her hair covered. Ember stayed hidden in the ship. Claire led them through winding corridors lit by bioluminescent fungi. Traders from a dozen species bartered in hushed tones. No one asked questions. They found a small inn run by a woman named Rhea. She had kind eyes and hands scarred from old burns. She took one look at Elira and nodded. "Room 3, backstairs. No cameras." "Thank you," Daniel said. Rhea handed him a key made of bone. "Be careful. The council has eyes here." And worse things, they settled in. Elira sat by the window watching the slow drift of ships outside. Daniel checked the news feeds. Reports of Crother attacks had increased. Entire colonies gone silent. The hive mind was growing desperate. Ember lay on the floor, his tail curled around Elira's feet. She reached down and stroked his scales. He purred softly. That night, Elira dreamed of the first choir, not as a place but as a presence. A voice older than stars calling her home. She woke with tears on her cheeks. Daniel was awake too, sitting by the door rifle across his lap. "You heard it too," she said. He nodded, not with ears, but in my bones. Like a hum, they left at dawn. Rhea gave them extra rations and a warning. A human named Jessa Kane had been asking about Silthari relics. She worked for a shadow group called the Echo Syndicate. They believed Silthari magic could be weaponized. "We will avoid her," Daniel said. But fate had other plans. As they returned to the docks, the Iron Sparrow was gone. In its place stood Jessa Kane. She was tall with sharp features and eyes that glittered like broken glass. She wore a long coat lined with tech and a smile that did not reach her lips. "Looking for your friend," she said. "Where is Claire?" Elira asked. "Safe. For now. I have a proposition." Daniel stepped in front of Elira. "We are not interested." Jessa laughed. "You do not understand. The Syndicate controls half the black market in this sector. We can get you past the Crother blockade near the final node, or we can hand you over to the Council. Your choice." Elira studied her. "Why help us?" "Because the Crother are not the only ones who fear the song. The Syndicate wants balance, and you are the key." It was a trap, but they had no choice. The final node was guarded by a Crother armada. They could not get through alone. "Fine," Daniel said, "but if you betray us, Ember will eat you first." Jessa's smile faltered. "Noted." She led them to a hidden hangar where a sleek ship called the Dusk Manta waited. It was faster than the skyward and shielded with resonance null plates. Ember growled but followed. The journey took 2 days. Jessa spoke little. She gave them food, water, and a data pad with updated star charts. Elira noticed she avoided looking directly at the heartseed. They reached the edge of the Crothar blockade near the ruins of Vera. Once a Siltheri garden world, it was now a graveyard of blackened trees and silent rivers. The final resonance node was buried beneath the central spire. Jessa activated the manta's cloaking field. We go in quiet. No singing, no fire, just in and out. They landed in a crater miles from the spire. Ember stayed with the ship. Daniel carried the resonance anchor. Elira held the heartseed close. They moved through the ruins like ghosts. The air was thick with silence. Even the wind did not blow. Crothar patrols moved in perfect sync, their forms flickering in and out of reality. Elira felt the node before she saw it, a deep thrum in the earth. A heartbeat. They reached the spire's base. The entrance was sealed with a Silthari lock. Elira placed her hand on it and sang a single note. The stone parted. Inside the chamber glowed with soft blue light. The node floated in the center, a sphere of swirling energy. But as Elira stepped forward, the ground trembled. Crothar reapers emerged from the walls. Not 3 this time. Dozens. Their void faces turned toward her. Jessa raised her rifle. I will hold them. Activate the node. Daniel stood beside her. We do this together. Elira ran to the center. She placed the heartseed against the node. Light exploded. The song returned louder than ever. The reapers froze, then shattered. But the Crothar armada above sensed the surge. Ships descended. Entropy beams tore through the sky. Jessa grabbed Elira's arm. We have to go now. They ran. Daniel covered their rear, firing at emerging drones. The spire began to collapse. Stone rained down. Ember met them halfway. He roared and breathed a wall of blue fire, holding back the Crothar forces. They boarded the manta just as the spire imploded. Jessa punched the engines. The manta shot into the sky, weaving through falling debris. Crothar ships gave chase, but the song had weakened their fields. One by one, they faltered. When they were clear, Jessa let out a breath. That was too close. Elira looked at the heartseed. It glowed brighter now. The map on the datapad updated. The path to the first choir was open. Jessa turned to her. You know what comes next? Elira nodded. The final song. Daniel placed a hand on her shoulder. We will be with you. As the manta jumped to the edge of known space, Elira felt the weight of what she carried. Not just a legacy, but a future, and she would not face it alone. He coordinates led them beyond the rim of known space to a place not marked on any star chart. The void here was different. Not empty, but full, humming with a quiet energy that made the ship's metal groan softly. Even Ember sensed it. He lay in the cargo hold, his scales dimmed as if in reverence. Daniel checked the sensors. There is no planet. No station, just resonance. Elira stood at the viewport, her fingers pressed against the cool glass. It is not a place you see. It is a place you feel. Jessa guided the dusk manta through a field of drifting crystals, each one pulsing with soft light. They were not minerals. They were echoes, fragments of old songs left behind by Silthari, who had come here long ago. The first choir was not a world. It was a convergence, a living harmony woven into the fabric of space itself. As they drew closer, the heartseed glowed brighter, warming Elira's hands. The map on the datapad dissolved into pure light, then vanished. Its purpose was done. We are here, Jessa said quietly. They docked the manta on a floating platform made of woven starlight. It felt solid beneath their feet, but shimmered like water. Ember stepped out last, his wings half spread, his amber eyes wide. Even he knew this was sacred. A path appeared ahead, lined with arches of sound. Each step they took rang like a chime. Daniel walked beside Elira, his hand near his rifle, but not on it. Jessa followed behind, her usual sharpness softened by awe. At the center of the convergence stood a dais of pure resonance. No stone, no metal. Just light shaped by song, and above it hovered a single note. Visible. Eternal. The first note ever sung. Elira approached slowly. The air thickened with memory. She saw flashes of her ancestors singing stars into being, weaving time with melody, shaping life from silence. She saw her mother's last stand, her father's final chord. She saw Lyra waiting in the dark, then she saw herself. Not as she was, but as she could be. A bridge between silence and song, between past and future. She stepped onto the dais. The moment her foot touched the light, the entire convergence flared. The heart seed rose from her hands and merged with the first note. A new song began. Not old, not new, but whole. Daniel felt it in his chest, a warmth that spread through his bones. Jessa dropped to one knee, tears streaming down her face. Ember bowed his head and let out a low purr that harmonized with the melody. But the Crothar felt it too. From the edge of the void, their armada emerged. Not dozens, hundreds. Their entropy fields stretched like black wings across the stars. At their center floated the hive core, a massive sphere of anti-resonance pulsing with silent hunger. They had come to end the song forever. Jessa stood quickly. "We cannot fight them here." "Not with their numbers." "We do not fight," Elira said. "We sing." She turned to Daniel. "I need you to anchor me. If I lose myself in the song, I will not return." He nodded and activated the resonance anchor May had given him. It glowed softly in his palm. "I will hold you." Ember coiled around the dais, his body a living shield. Jessa took position at the edge of the platform, rifle ready. She knew she could not stop the Crothar, but she could buy time. The first wave struck. Crothar reapers poured onto the platform, their forms flickering with stolen time. Daniel fired precise shots, each pulse calibrated to disrupt their entropy fields. Jessa moved like a shadow, taking down drones with silent efficiency. Ember breathed blue fire that burned not with heat but with harmonic purity. Elira closed her eyes and began to sing. Not a lullaby, not a battle cry, but the full song, the one that shaped galaxies. The notes poured from her like rivers of light. The convergence responded. Crystals flared. Arches rang. The very void bent to her voice. The reapers unraveled, their forms dissolving into static. But more came. Always more. Daniel felt the anchor grow hot. Elira's song was growing stronger. Too strong. Her skin glowed. Her hair lifted. Her eyes shone with violet fire. "Hold on," he whispered. Jessa took a hit. An entropy blade grazed her arm and her flesh grayed instantly. She gritted her teeth and kept firing. Ember roared and charged into the tide of reapers, his wings blazing with resonance. Elira's voice rose higher. The song reached into the Crothar armada. Ships flickered, then exploded. But the hive core pulsed stronger. It was feeding on the silence between her notes. She faltered. Daniel stepped onto the dais. He placed a hand on her shoulder. Not to stop her, but to remind her she was not alone. "Sing for us," he said. "Not for the past. For us." Elira opened her eyes. She saw Daniel. Jessa bleeding but standing. Ember fighting with every breath. She saw the humans on Marlow, the trees. The rain, the quiet moments that had given her strength. And she sang again. This time the song was different. Not perfect. Not ancient. But human. Full of hope and fear and love. The convergence responded with a new harmony, one never heard before. The hive core shuddered. Cracks spread across its surface. The Crothar armada froze, then collapsed into dust. Silence returned. But it was not the silence of entropy. It was the silence after a song. Full. Peaceful. Elira sank to her knees. Daniel caught her. Her glow faded, but her eyes remained bright. Ember limped to her side. His scales scorched, but his purr steady. Jessa leaned against a crystal, her arm bandaged with torn cloth. "We did it," she said. "No," Elira whispered. "We began it." The convergence pulsed gently around them. The first choir was awake, and it would not sleep again. They returned to the dusk manta, weary but whole. Jessa offered to take them back to Haven's Rest, but Elira shook her head. "The song is not finished. There are others who need to hear it." Jessa understood. She handed Daniel a small device, a resonance beacon. "If you ever need help, just activate it. The syndicate will come." "Thank you," he said. As they left, the convergence behind the stars seemed brighter, the void less empty. Ember slept in the cargo hold, his dreams filled with light. Back on Marlow, they found the colony rebuilding. The Crothar threat had faded. Rumors spread of a new harmony in the galaxy, of songs that healed instead of destroyed. Daniel repaired the skyward. Elira planted a garden of moonmoth flowers that hummed in the wind. Ember basked in the sun, his scales slowly regaining their luster. One evening, as they sat by the fire, a message arrived. Not from Claire or Jessa, but from a young human girl on a distant colony. She had heard a whisper in her dreams, a song, and she asked if it was real. Elira smiled. "Yes," she said. "It is real." And she began to teach. For the first time in centuries, the Silthari song was not a secret, not a weapon, but a gift, and it was just the beginning. Months passed and the song spread, not through fleets or broadcast, but through whispers. Children on distant colonies hummed melodies they had never been taught. Farmers noticed their crops grew faster near certain stones that vibrated in the wind. Even old war machines left in scrapyards began to chime softly at dawn. The galaxy was healing one note at a time. Elira no longer hid. She walked the streets of Marlow with Ember at her side and Daniel a few steps behind. People bowed not out of fear but respect. They called her the quiet singer. Some brought gifts. A carved flute from the Vren, a crystal that glowed when she passed, a child's drawing of her with wings made of light. She accepted them all with a small smile and a nod. But peace was fragile. The Crother were gone but not forgotten. In the dark corners of the galaxy, new threats stirred. Factions who saw the song not as healing but as power. They wanted to control it, to shape it, to sell it. One evening, a shuttle landed on the edge of the Whispering Pines. It bore no markings, but its hull shimmered with stolen resonance tech. From it stepped a woman named Lyra Moss. She was human, but her eyes held the cold gleam of ambition. She wore a suit lined with Silthari fragments harvested from dead worlds. "I come with an offer," Lyra said as she approached Daniel's porch. Lyra stood in the doorway, Ember growling low beside her. Daniel leaned against the railing, his arms crossed. "We are not interested," Lyra smiled. "You do not understand. The Galactic Council has declared the song a protected heritage. They want to place it under official guardianship, meaning they want to lock it away in a vault and study it like a relic." Elira stepped forward. "The song is not a thing to be owned, of course not," Lyra said smoothly. "But without structure, without guidance, it will be misused. I represent a coalition of human worlds. We want to build schools, teach the song safely, and we want you to lead it." Daniel saw the trap. If Elira agreed, she would become a figurehead. Her voice would be edited, her choices limited. The song would become policy, not poetry. "No," Elira said. Lyra's smile faded. "That is unwise. The council will not ask twice." She left, but her warning lingered like smoke. Days later, reports came in. Resonance nodes across the galaxy were being seized. Silthari ruins cordoned off. Anyone caught singing without a license was detained. The council called it preservation. Elira called it silence. "We have to act," Daniel said. "But not with force," Elira replied. "The song cannot be forced. It must be offered." She decided to hold a gathering, not in a grand amphitheater but in the heart of Marlow under open skies. She sent word through the beacon Jessa had given them, through old scout channels, through the dreams of children who still heard the melody. They came from everywhere. Brian elders who had once turned away from her now brought offerings of harmonic glass. Geltari matriarchs sang in low tones that blended with the wind. Dravic warriors stood silent, their weapons sheathed. Humans arrived in old freighters, patched shuttles, and even a few stolen council skiffs. Claire Voss landed the Iron Sparrow at the edge of the field. Jessa arrived on foot, her arm still, scarred but her eyes clear. Even May Toller came bringing a device she had built, a resonance amplifier powered by starlight and memory. They gathered not as nobles or soldiers but as listeners. Elira stood on a simple wooden platform, her silver hair loose, her pendant glowing softly. Ember lay at her feet, his amber eyes watching the crowd. Daniel stood to the side, his hand resting on the resonance anchor. She did not speak. She sang not the full song, not the weapon, but a new verse, one of choice, of sharing, of listening before speaking. The notes rose gently, weaving through the crowd. People wept. Others joined in humming or tapping rhythms on their knees. The ground beneath them vibrated with shared harmony. The council envoys watched from a distance. They had come to arrest her. But as the song reached them, their armor hummed. Their comms crackled with static. One by one, they lowered their weapons. Afterward, a young human girl stepped forward. Her name was Nora Ellis. She held a small flute carved from moonwood. "Can you teach me?" she asked. Elira knelt. "The song is not mine to give. It is yours to find. Listen to your heart. It already knows the melody." Nora smiled and played a single clear note. It was shaky but true. In the weeks that followed, the gathering became a movement, not led by Elira but inspired by her. Schools opened not in vaults but in forests and canyons and shipyards. Teachers were not scholars but gardeners, mechanics, pilots. Anyone who had heard the song and wanted to share it. The council tried to stop it. But how do you outlaw a lullaby, a hum, a heartbeat? They could not. Even Lyra Moss returned, not with demands but with questions. She sat at the edge of the field for 3 days listening. On the fourth, she approached Elira. "I was wrong," she said. "The song is not power, it is connection." Elira nodded. "You are welcome to learn." As the seasons turned, Marlowe became a beacon, not of war or wealth, but of harmony. Ships arrived not to conquer, but to listen. Ember grew larger, his scales now shimmering with faint gold veins. He often carried children on his back as they learned to sing to the stars. Daniel still repaired old tech, but now he also built resonance recorders so the songs would not be lost. He never took credit, he simply made sure the voices were heard. One evening, as the twin moons rose, Elira stood on the hill overlooking the valley. The air was filled with soft melodies from a dozen species. Fireflies danced in time with the notes. Ember slept beneath a tree, his breath a steady rhythm. Daniel joined her. "You did it," she shook her head. "We did it, all of us." He looked at her. "What now?" she smiled. "Now we keep listening." Far above, in the silent dark, new stars were being born, and somewhere in the ruins of old worlds, forgotten songs began to echo again. Not of loss, not of war, but of hope. And it was not the end. It was just the beginning.